Hey, welcome to part 4, and right away we're going to be expanding on what we've done and make it a little bit more complex. And hopefully now, once we go past this step, you'll be able to say, okay, this will actually make my life a lot easier to do, or further down the road when I come back to this and do this project again, it'll make my speed for this much quicker, or when you're handing off a project to someone else, it'll help them much better other than digging through a hierarchy of all these things that you have no idea what does what, or uh, could be a problem for other people. So let's get started. So your text objects, we're going to add an effector to it, and let's make it just a normal little plain effector. And this effector is going to be in the, let's start with the Y direction, just 200. It's still on the screen, let's make it 300. Okie dokes. And we're going to have a fall off here, box fall off. And we're going to make this box, well, let's get rid of this Xpresso window because we don't need that for a little bit. We're going to make this box pretty large to encompass what text would be here, and make it a little bit larger than the actual text is. So in case you need like a large amount of text in here that currently it's just cinema tutorial, but let's say you make it this is a cinema tutorial and the line gets a lot longer, this would come in very handy to have an already made larger box than it already is. Okay, now that we have that set up, we want to invert it. Click that little button, and then we're going to change the coordinates. So let's just make this like 35 frames long, and this is going to be moving in the X direction. So you can hold down Control and click the little black button to make a keyframe, and then let's go back to 0. Move this all the way off to the left, and click again on this, holding down Control, and you got yourself a keyframe. And it animates in and animates out. Perfect. And let's rename this plane effector position, and then we're going to duplicate that. Just hold down Control, drag it up, and then we'll rename it rotation. And what we're going to do is select our keyframes here. Let's just offset it like 5 frames, and click on your plane effector, go to parameters and the rotation now, and let's move this H rotation like 44 or something. And then hop back in, select both of these text objects, go to letters, and drag in your rotation, put it below position, and now you'll notice it rotates in and drops in. It's all great. Okay, now we need to make a new object here, a new user data. So you can click Add User Data, and I think we should make a new group for this. So let's just add a group inside of the text controls already, and let's drag our new data in there. First off, let's make this a 2-column setup. Let's rename this Animation Controls. There we go. Typo. Okie dokes. And then let's name this first one rotation degrees. And we'll change this float to a degree. And let's start off with a negative 360 and 360. So basically that rotation that we just made, we're going to have a controller for that, so someone can choose to have it rotate in a negative 360 degrees or maximum of 360 degrees. And then for our sliders, we'll just have it a little bit less than that because it's going to be spinning pretty quickly if we have it that high for just normal controls. And usually you probably won't want that, so let's just drag that down to 120 for both of them and see what that does. Default value 0, that's fine. And let's add one more data, and this one was going to be for the direction of how the text comes in. So we're going to want to make a integer and make it you can have it a cycle or radio button, doesn't really matter. I'm going to do a cycle though. Then you want to do the 0 and then the colon deal, and then type in let's go with no position, then 1, and then type in left, and then 2 top. Now if you want to keep going, you can do it from the bottom. Might as well just do bottom, just since I said it. Okay, and then we're going to rename this animation in direction. So basically you're going to have controls now, as you can see here. It just pops up with however you want the animating in to control. So click OK, and you'll notice right away, oh, missed the animatable button. Uncheck that. Probably don't need that since it's already going to be animating in. Okie dokes. So you can click on our little Xpresso editor button there, and we're going to set up a new grouping here. Just move over, and let's rename the remark to rotation controls. Bring in our text animation. Right away we just go down to text controls and pull up our animation controls, the new group that we just made, and rotation degrees. Simple enough. And then we'll pull in our plane effector, and then we're looking for the parameter of transform rotation H. And if we go back in here, we can see H right here. We set at 44. This is basically just going to hook up right there, and that's all we have to do. So right away you notice it's not even rotating. Let's just change the rotation, animate it up 106. You notice it's rotating in now. Pretty simple, very effective. Alright, now let's do the animation position direction. Just make another remark right below it, and we'll label this animation in. So I'm just going to drag this over and delete that and go to our text controls, animating in. Now that we have this drop down menu to choose from, you got to be thinking, alright, to be able to choose one of these 4 options, it's going to be a node that's logical, and it's going to be a condition, because if you choose 0 position, no position, it's going to be 0. It'll go down and down and down until whatever number it is. So let's choose that. We have 4 spots, 4 spots. We have none, left, top, and bottom. So we need to add some more inputs. Then just drag this direction over to the switch. And that'll be telling us what position we'll be in. And just because we still have this text here from earlier, let's unhide that and move it up a little bit so it's not in the way. And let's just hook up the text so we can show you what the property is currently showing. So it's at 0 right now. And remember, 0 is the first one. It's kind of one off. So it's left, top, bottom, all those. You'll notice it's always staying 0 because all these inputs right now are all set at 0. They're all real data type and they're all 0. So moving on, we're going to want to bring in the position and change that over to transform position, and we're going to choose X for this one. So let's see here. For this switch, this condition here, let's rename the top of it here and just name it in the remark section. Let's name it X direction. So you know, if you ever have to come back here and you're like, all right, what the heck is going on? This will help out a little bit. And you want to hook up the output here to that one. So now you want to check out which one is animating in from the left. And it's position number 1. So in number 1 here, which would be input number 3, right here, we're going to want to change that to probably like 400 or so, and it'll animate in 400 meters. And I probably chose the wrong direction a bit. Yep. You want to do negative 400. There we go. So you notice it's animating in from the left now. It's also animating in from the top because our original settings were set at 300 here. We can just zero that out and it's actually working. Okie dokes. Now make it to the more advanced part. We're going to change the Y position. So we can just, in this same little node here, just pull up position Y. Now that we have that open, to have it connecting to this, we're going to have to duplicate this condition to be our Y. Go to our basic properties to our mark, change that to Y to remember that one's dealing with the Y. You don't really need to do this. I'm just showing you little extra options since I mean, it's pretty obvious that this one is the X because it's going right into the X, but in case you got a big spider web of all this code, it might come in handy sometime. So hook that up there, the switch, hook that up here, and all we're going to have to do is in the parameters zero out that 400 degrees. We're going to have to just change it to positive 300 and negative 300, and we got to figure out which one is which. So this is 0, 1, 2, and 3. So 2 is top, 3 is bottom. Come back into here, 2 is top, 3 is bottom, minus 300. So it will now animate in negative 300 degrees and animate up, or positive. And let's get this Xpresso out of the way so you can see. Notice it's animating in from the bottom now. And choose top, and it animates in from the top. Let's just add a little rotation in there. Perfect. Now what you guys got to really think about now that we have that set up is what could possibly go wrong here now that we have this set up. So what you want to try is just test out a few things, or else just like think about what would be a problem that could arise. So, you know, change the font size around, and you'll notice right away this guy right here, if we change the text height, it doesn't hit all the letters. If it's like 150, you'll notice the size of our effectors are not big enough to handle the text size. So we're going to have to do a little bit of getting into a little complex side of how to fix this problem. So let's group these two effectors. Let's go out until both the keyframes are set in the middle, and then group them. And then we'll rename this effectors and drag it inside our animation. So now it's inside a grouping, and what I'm going to do is change the scale of this. So whenever we change the scale of our text height, it will also be scaling our effectors larger or smaller so it stays proportional to the size, so it always hits all the letters without having this problem. So to do that, let's open up our Xpresso again, make another remark, just copy that one down, and we'll rename that remapper scale. And we're going to be using the remapper Xpresso. I believe that's in calculate range mapper. That's what we want. And then we're going to want our text animation, obviously. And we're going to be wanting the height. And then for the output, we're going to get this effectors group that we have here. We want to make sure it's scaled in the middle, since our text is aligned in the very center of our scene. We also want our effectors to be scaling from the center of the screen. So it's very good that our effectors right now are in 0, 0. If it wasn't, we could just line it up, whatever. So our text height is going to go into here in our range mapper, and then our output will be going into the scale. So coordinates, scale, and we can just click this scale here because it's going, if you click this scale, it makes all of the properties the same. Oops. So instead of having to go scale and choose X, Y, and Z and hook them all up, you can just click on scale and it'll automatically have the scale for all 3 of the X, Y, and Z scale up. So let's hook that up in there. Range mapper. Alright, so we have to go back into this text height and remember what is the minimum and maximum. So text height, the minimum is 10, maximum is 300. So we'll just feed in the numbers. Input lower would be 10. Input upper would be 300. And this is obviously input lower is the lower number, input upper is the upper number. And basically what this remapper will do, range mapper, sorry, it'll translate what this number and this number is to be proportional to what this and this is. So it will hook up to our scale proportionately. So what we can do here is click on here. For our output lower, let's just, this is kind of a guessing game right now. I'm not doing it exact. Let's do like 0.33, and then upper, let's say 3.5 or something. Let's see how that looks. It looks a little bit too big. Let's go with 3. Okay, so that might work pretty well. Let's just change the size a little bit, see what's going on here. Well, you'll notice right there that it is just inside it barely touching. So we're going to want to make it just a little bit larger for our range mapper. 3.2 maybe? And that looks about right. Just enough. So we can scale this down, and you'll notice it proportionally scales, so we will not have that problem now for the animation, the effectors not hitting it. So scale the height down. Scale it up. And another option you might want to consider, just a little extra, is you could have the text objects, their depth, the larger they get, the more depth they have. And the smaller they get, the less depth they have. So that's a little side note you could set up on your own time if you were so inclined to. It'd be the same exact setup, it would just be using the depth instead. So that's basically it for part 4 of the effectors layup. Hopefully you got to thinking how you could incorporate this into one of your own projects, and see you in part 5.